It's just like the HIV experience, like the journey with HIV, my disability, and so on. Like, it's all like kind of shaping my spirituality in a way. Like, the genocide is one chapter of my spiritual growth.
Before we get started on today's show, please hit like and subscribe.
Okay, so my name is, and I am 29 years old. Sorry, I thought to say 27, but that was in 2023. Don't ask me about the last 2 years of my life. I don't know how I, grew 2 years older. And I live in Gaza City, yeah, by the seaport, far west of Gaza City.
What does it feel like in Gaza right now?
You've been here. You've been to the area where I
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
The roads are still paved. The buildings on both sides of the road are still there. They're still standing. Yes, some apartments were bombed in those buildings, but they're still standing. Nevertheless, cars are passing by, people walk up and down the road. It feels like we were stripped out of all our feelings and emotions, hopes, ambitions, and dreams. And we're being forced to just adapt to what things are now and just accept them. And it's really hard to look forward to things at all. Like, if the borders are going to open, like, if I'm
ES
going
and
to
I
get
have been talking for over 2 years now. I've even visited him in Gaza and took this picture in his house. One of the things that struck me when we first started talking was how ES and his family navigated getting his HIV medication during the most intense months of the genocide.
my brother would make the trip from our home into Al Hawa. He would have to go to Shuhada Street, which is like it's like a 40-minute walk. My brother would make the trip, take the medication and bring it back. And sometimes there'd be kind of question marks on like whether I was gonna receive it or not, whether I was gonna access it or not. Like if they have like one kind and not the other kind, like they had shortage in one kind and like they had a surplus of the other kind, because I used to have two kinds of ARVs, like two bottles, two different medicines.
ES was getting his antiretroviral medication from the Palestinian Ministry of Health. As Western news media loves to say, the quote-unquote Hamas-run Ministry of Health.
They were giving me my medication. But here's the thing, I never viewed it as Hamas-run Ministry of Health. It's just
I
the
know.
Ministry of Health, period. Like, it doesn't
The
matter.
Palestinian Ministry of Health.
You want to talk about how good the medical system is here? The Hamas-run Ministry of Health is here. How great it is here. Talk about it. If that is going to appease and appeal to the masses outside in the Western world, because it fucks up with the discourse and it shows how Israel is like crazy and like lying all the time, just like we know. Go for it, Afeef. But yeah, there are so many things to it than that.
Before the genocide started in October 2023, ES says that he managed to navigate getting his HIV medication regularly. The government and the NGOs in Gaza also gave him vouchers for money for him to survive in case he needed it. He explains.
Yeah, so like the vouchers thing started to happen a few months before the genocide, and I was only able to like receive it like I think like twice or three times before the genocide, and then it was cut off during the genocide, and it wasn't until a couple months ago that I received it another time. I think I received like $350, which was really nice. The initial plan was to like have a monthly kind of thing going on for us, like all HIV positive persons in Gaza. I believe it came through UNICEF.
There were obviously more resources before the genocide for people like ES who have HIV in Gaza. At the time, a doctor told me that there were around 40 people in all that they knew of. When I first met ES, it was through a Facebook message. This was the first thing that he wrote to me in March 2024.
Hello, Afeef. I've been following your page on Instagram and saw that you were having a conversation with a queer person in Gaza. I happen to be from Gaza, and I'm also queer. Is there a way for me and you to chat with one another? I'd like to ask you about a couple of things, just to clear my mind.
ES told me he believed he would have to begin rationing his HIV medication. Israel's bombing campaign was growing, and they were hitting hospitals, clinics, and the depots holding his medication would probably be destroyed soon too. ES at that time told me he had a couple months of medication at his house left. He thought we should just keep in touch, just in case there was an emergency and I could try to make a public appeal. We spoke most weeks about everything from the genocide to his ideas about God to his rejection of Western theories of queerness. Over time, we basically became pen pals. And sometimes his voice notes were funny as hell, like this one where he's crouched in the hall talking shit to me.
Hello? Can you hear it? Afeef, you're a fucking bitch. Sorry, I should stop laughing because I don't want my mom to know that I'm stoned. Afeef, قسمك.
And other times they were deadly serious.
So I think for the most part, most people wouldn't even care, to be honest. What the fuck?
Like all Palestinian people, ES is someone whose life directly challenges the biggest tragedy of this genocide, the erasure of Palestinian culture. But the particular day-to-day life ES lives also challenges the claims of Zionist propaganda in real time. Israel uses propaganda to manipulate the world into believing their cause is morally supreme, that to attack, displace, and mass murder Palestinians is simply a reaction to an inherent barbarism within the Arabs that they have occupied for decades. The truth is, like all people, ES has lived a life full of competing truths that sometimes contradict each other. Here he is speaking about other gay people in Gaza.
I mean, like, Gaza Maliana, like, it's full of gay people. Like, what the fuck? I didn't know that there are that many gay people, you know?
He mostly feared for his safety in the conservative enclave. But as he grew older, he went from thinking he was the only queer person in Gaza to interacting with others online, and also in real life. While many of us extend complexity to white Western people, we tend to reduce Arabs being murdered by our governments into stereotypes.
So my earliest memory was when I was in kindergarten. I remember being with a boy, one of my classmates in the school bathroom, in one of the school bathrooms, in one of the stalls. And we were just like, I don't know, being curious about each other's private parts, I guess. We were just like touching each other. We were like so little, like maybe like 4 years old. And I don't know why everything is blocked out from that period of time except for that memory. And I think it's because my psyche wants me to know. And like Allah wants me to know, like it was born with you. You were born with it. It came out of me, like, you know, and it was like another boy. But the boy that was with me in that bathroom has gone on and continues his life as a straight person, as a straight man. Like he's a straight man. He's not into boys, but I happen to stay into boys and like be into boys. I don't know.
ES spent most of his early life in Gaza, but after 10th grade he traveled to the US and attended his junior year of high school in the Northeast. After graduating, he left Gaza again. While he was living abroad, ES learned that he was HIV positive, and in retrospect, believes he contracted the virus while he had been studying in Turkey. He had moved to the US for college, and at first he had friends. But after the diagnosis, ES became scared, he felt alone and mentally strained. He was living with a disease in a country he didn't even understand yet. So he left the US, hoping to get asylum in Turkey.
I was 18, 19 at the time. Obviously, there was like no support whatsoever. It was just me and the light. Even God, even Allah wasn't there.
ES says that shortly thereafter returning to Turkey, the pandemic struck. He spent the next 2 years in Istanbul, and one of them fully in quarantine. He didn't have consistent access to HIV meds, and at the time he believed he'd be eventually kicked out of the country. Because his treatment was inconsistent and he felt an incredible amount of shame, ES avoided healthcare and sustained an infection that eventually developed into neurosyphilis, making it difficult for him to walk.
It wasn't because of HIV-related deterioration, but it was mostly because of the syphilis development at the time. That was kind of the pushing element in the story that got me to go to the doctor. I was becoming very sick because of the syphilis infection.
It was at this time that ES decided he needed to go back to Gaza.
By the time I went to get my syphilis infection treatment and start my antiretrovirals, I had already become disabled. I was getting really bad. My dad was finally noticing that something was terribly wrong with this kid. I did spend like 4 to 5 months bedridden in a way. I couldn't get out of bed. When I started complaining about my legs, I would tell my mom like every day, I'm like, there's something happening. I feel like something is being taken away from me, like every day.
The way his body was reacting meant he had to tell his parents about his HIV diagnosis, which meant effectively coming out of the closet. But to his dismay, his parents didn't really acknowledge what he was going through. They didn't understand, and they were ashamed. By the time ES got the medical care he needed, his infection had progressed, and his mental health had worsened. After a lot of judgment and anger, ES's father finally called a friend who was a doctor in the health ministry. ES says his dad's friend sounded the alarm, saying that he needed treatment right away. This is him explaining what the doctor told his dad.
You are destroying him. Like you're losing him. You're about to lose him.
You're about to lose.
Like you're being unfair to him. Like you're being so unfair. Like you're literally about to lose your eldest son. If you don't move now, you're gonna lose him.
Palestinians helped you and can't kind of continue to help you.
Yeah, no, I mean like they do help because they have work ethics. They have to help.
Being gay in Gaza is extremely taboo, and ES was terrified for his safety. He didn't know other gay people and thought maybe there weren't any in Gaza at all. He explains that while his dad was extremely homophobic and that almost everyone he had ever encountered in Gaza was really conservative, his dad's friend, a Palestinian doctor, is the reason he's still alive. And so whenever we discuss the danger of being queer in a conservative place or a family that's incredibly disappointing, whether it's in Florida or Gaza, we have to acknowledge that queers still exist, and it's the society that they come from which created them. Queerness is not a Western concept. In an early December of 2025 post, an underground queer organization called Worsened from Gaza wrote, quote, "Queerness was not born to be a decoration on the tables of empire, nor a marketing tool for states that treat the passing of symbolic LGBT-friendly laws as a blank check for committing atrocities. Queerness, in its essence, has always been a project of reorganizing the world from below, carried by bodies that have tasted repression in more than one form, and forced into a normative identity under the label of nature. This is precisely why colonial power fears real queerness, because it knows what forced exposure means, what it means for someone else to control your body, what it means to be forbidden from using the language that expresses who you are, and what it means for others to draw your image without you. A queer person in a colonial context is not merely sexually oppressed. They are politically suppressed, symbolically erased, and expected to conform to an image that was engineered for them, one that does not emerge from their own lived experience. Palestinian queerness, in particular, needs no one's permission. ES explains that queerness itself seems like it has been bought and made into a product, and then fragmented into many products to optimize selling.
It's just a facade. That's why I don't buy into pride parades anymore. And when you say pink washing, the queer identity, but we all agree that Israel is a colonial outpost, but so is the queer identity. It's like a colonial Western invention in a way. Let me be queer on my own terms. I don't want to be a homosexual, a queer, a gay. My pronouns are zizuza. I don't have to do these things, and if I don't have them, then I'm not queer liberated. I have to have these things so I can qualify as a proper civil modern day queer. When that knowledge wasn't mine to begin with. Even in Arabic we say queeri. We adopted the word as it is. We took it and we just wrote it in Arabic alphabets, and now we say queeri in Arabic. I'm could we not have invented, we have brains of our own? The internet, most of the great minds of the Middle East and the Arab world, they all travel to the Western world. They all want to go to American, Ivy League universities, or travel to Cambridge, and they have to earn their credits from those countries that are the cause, the main cause of the problems in our own countries, if that makes any sense. Even here during the genocide, people who have been evacuating throughout the genocide were the ones who had money to pay for the coordination fees, and then the great minds, those who seek education, they want to take them out. And some of the journalists, the prominent ones, they either kill them or they ship them out, because they don't want to leave anyone that is worth anything in this world, the way we see it now.
The truth is, propagandists have attempted to frame the Swana region as a place that is intrinsically hostile to queer and trans people. Of course, the Arabic-speaking world has, like any other part of the world, always had gay people and gender diversity. Just read Hannah Mushabbek and George Abraham's book The Homosexual Intifada, which is an anthology of queer Palestinian stories. One includes a story about 3 trans women that I wrote from Gaza. The region has a rich history of queerness and sexual diversity, particularly before colonial law sought to criminalize Palestinians for sexuality or sexual attitudes and desires that deviated from those deemed acceptable by the colonial order. Just take Abu Nawas, the 8th century classical Arabic poet, now widely considered one of the most influential Islamic poets of his period. His lyrical poetry was often homoerotic. There are many others like him across the region. The youth-led movement Wanabka just posted about queerness in ancient Syria. Or take Marwan Kaabour's 2024 book, The Queer Arab Glossary, which contains hundreds of different ways Arabic speakers in the region relate to their queerness. There are terms like Qadima fil Midan, which means an older queer in the community, or the term Mutakassir, which means the broken one. In Palestine, the British Mandate Criminal Code Ordinance in 1936 banned sex between men. Sexual offenses, Adam Haj Yahya writes, becomes a vague criminal category whose form turned into a lexical dump within which all kinds of behaviors started to pile. He says that the laws were made unilaterally by colonial authorities to support the effort to exert control over indigenous populations, believing such laws, quote, could inculcate European morality into resistant masses. While Zionists once used homosexuality to criminalize Palestinians in the 1930s, Zionists are doing the opposite now and use queerness as a weapon, arguing their society is inherently compatible with Western ideology and norms, whereas Arabs aren't, and that Israel should be protected against barbaric Muslims threatening to kill them for being so gay. It is true that Gaza is conservative and that life has been extremely hard for people like ES because of his identity. But the truth is, ES spent his 20s in Gaza amid Zionist occupation and violence and right-wing resistance to those circumstances. Resistance to Israel, conservatism, queerness, all of these things are intertwined inextricably for ES. Here, ES recalls the day of October 7th, 2023.
So on October 7th, 2023, I remember I had a Saturday off work and I agreed to go swimming at a local pool with my brother, dad, and my little half-brother. I was excited. I hadn't gone swimming in a really long time, so I was looking forward to it. The night before, I talked to my dad about where we could get one of those round tire-like floaties, because, with my disability, I wouldn't stand a chance in the water without one. My dad reassured me that night, and he said that we could buy one on the way. But as I made coffee the next morning, on October 7th at around 6 a.m., I began to see and hear a huge number of rockets being launched across the horizon. I instantly knew something was off. I had never seen anything like that before. So I rushed inside to wake up my mom and my brother and called my dad right away. We didn't even need to call off our plans for the day. It was so clear that the plans were already off. I turned on the TV and quickly realized that people had managed to break the siege and enter the occupied territories.
ES explains that at first, it felt like people were finally breaking through their Israeli prison. It made him feel excitement, but he didn't really know the details yet.
Yeah, we would lie if we say that we didn't feel joy. The vast majority of people in Gaza, and if not the greater Palestine too, and probably the rest of the world, were pretty fucking darn happy. But then, obviously, reality set in. What at first seemed like a jailbreak for Gaza, eventually transformed into a more intense prison sentence. Yeah, and we're still obviously dealing with it to this day.
ES says that every day since has been a fight for survival. He feels like everything in his life is at a standstill. He's had to battle bouts of depression, bouts of near psychosis from the stress, and struggles how to process the world around him.
That first smell after a place nearby gets bombed, the gray stuff, the particles like that fly into the air. Like you feel it. It's like you know that this is like worse than anything that you could ever breathe in. The pressure, the sound itself, like the sound of it landing before it explodes. Each warplane and each rocket or missile, it has a different sound. And we would like always guess, like, is this an Apache or like, is it an F-16 or is it an F like 32 or like I don't know, like shit I never wanted to like know anything about ever. And the quadcopters, man, the quadcopters were the worst. We call them the bees, nahla, because it makes us sound like a bee.
Over the last couple of years, ES would explain the horrors he's witnessed from his living room and his bedroom windows.
I've seen people get killed in front of me. I was looking out of a window in our old place, and there was this car that got struck right across the street, like literally down from like the window where I was looking. The second it was struck, there were two bodies that flew out of the car. One of them had his leg cut off, and the other one was bleeding, and he stayed there, right? And we couldn't do anything. We can't call anyone because there's no signal. The signal was out. A few days later, more troops were coming in with their trucks and bulldozers and everything. They drove over the bodies. They shoveled the bodies to the side. One of them was buried under this pile of sand. And the other one, I don't know what the fucking fuck happened to it. It was just desecrated.
He describes watching from inside his flat as a family ran across the street and were shot at by a quadcopter. And that Israeli violence he was witnessing from inside his flat would eventually come falling down on him and his family.
When we were bombed, it was the night of a full moon. And we just woke up and it was all dark. There was so much trouble.
ES describes that it was an extremely confusing and chaotic experience the night that his apartment was struck by an Israeli missile. He remembers that he could hear his dad's voice, who was outside, downstairs, crying, basically saying he couldn't climb up to them.
Thankfully, I had my phone next to me. My room door was like on top of me, and I guess maybe like the closet doors were on top of me too, and like so much shit, like so much rubble. And then I was calling out for my brother, and like he was answering me, but it sounded like he was very far. And for a second, I thought we were like buried under the rubble. I thought like everything was on top of us.
ES and his brother's rooms were next door to each other. The walls had been blown out, and as they were shouting, their voices were drowned out by the night. They realized that their apartment had been totally destroyed. It was 5 a.m, and everything was dark, and they couldn't find their mom.
There were like cement blocks on top of her, like big ones. Like the ones like that hold the entire like ceiling and room together. It somehow landed on top of my mom with like smaller sized blocks, cement blocks. And then I just told my brother to like, exchange places with me because I couldn't like lift it from where I was standing because my legs are like really, they're not solid. Like it's hard for me like to keep them still. They're always like shaking in a way. So like I told my brother to like to take my place and try to just like remove it instead of like having us both try to lift it from both sides. So like I told my brother to kind of rely on the inclination of the like cement block and just like move it away from my mom so we can just free her, even if partially, like we can just pull her from under there.
ES says that he and his brother started working together to pull their mom out from under the cement block into safety.
So we moved like the big block. There was like another smaller block, and we just like needed to make sure at first that she was fine, like like her limbs were intact and she wasn't like bleeding badly. There was like a big gash on the back of her shoulder, and we had a first aid kit bag, and it was in my room. Thankfully, it wasn't lost. So like we got the like the wrapping thingy out of it, and we wrapped the mom's injury, and she was also bleeding from other parts too, but like there were like smaller cuts in a way. And then we were like calling everyone, trying to get to the first responders. And we were calling friends and asking them to just call the ambulance and like call people like the civil defense.
He explains that the civil defense told his family that their apartment was in a dangerous red zone, and they needed clearance to even get to them. And they wouldn't be there until daybreak.
So we just like sat there, and then mom all of a sudden just asked like, where are Kiki and Jafar, our cats that we had? And the second I realized that I completely forgot about them, I freaked out, and I started like crying and screaming, and I was like, Kiki. It's just like I couldn't even believe that I forgot about her, because like I was like too caught up. I was too caught up in the fact that my mom was under the rubble, and like we just like got bombed. And I just like forgot about our cats. Like Kiki, like we had her for like 7 years, and Jafar we had for like a year and a half. So it was like I felt so bad for like forgetting about her, not even for losing her, but the fact that like I forgot about her, completely, it was just like too much for me, to be honest.
That morning in October of 2024, a year after the genocide had started, ES posted this video of himself being rescued.
Yeah, and then the civil defense came to get us, and we thought they needed like a ladder thingy, like that comes out of the car to like get us from like the 3rd floor. But they somehow figured out a way to like get to us from on top of the rubble, like climb up to the 3rd floor, take the stairs until the 2nd floor, and then like climb from on top of the rubble to reach the 3rd floor. And that's how they got us out too, from like over the rubble.
Amid having to deal with the Israelis striking his home and destroying it, and then being displaced amid the bombs falling and the quadcopters hovering over everything, not to mention neighbors being visibly killed in the street, ES is on a walker. He is dealing with complications due to his disease that have left him unable to fully walk on his own in a genocide. ES says that one comforting thing that he's experienced is his online community.
How the queer community like got together and was like on the forefront lines of like the solidarity movement, and they were doing like everything. They were doing the most. I felt so much pride because I used it so much like when mom and I would be bickering about something that has to do with like sexuality and all of that. I'm like, look, but they're doing this like, most of the money that we're eating from right now came from that group of people. They're the ones that are feeding us right now. Come on, like God bless them to bless us. So like, why do you think you can say that God doesn't like us? It's weird.
For more than 2 years, ES has survived the genocide while managing his HIV, strapped to a walker. He should be getting regular blood work to monitor the effectiveness of his medications, as well as any potential harmful side effects. He needs physical therapy to manage the disability and the pains he has. He's gone so long without consistent treatment, and he needs a therapist. He also just wants to get out of the genocide itself and start a life somewhere abroad where he can study or get a scholarship. But he also just needs basic stuff, like supportive footwear and access to mobility aids. But all of this has been so tough because Israel has targeted and destroyed Gaza's healthcare system.
I had to change medications 3 times throughout the last 2 years, and I haven't had the opportunity to do any blood work whatsoever, even though it is a must, especially if you're switching medication that is as serious as HIV medication. You have to do some blood work. You have to make sure your kidneys are working well, your liver is functioning right, and all of those things before you switch to another medication. But they had to switch the medication because they didn't have enough of what I used to take before. It's not about just accessing medication. It's about knowing if the medication is working or not. I mean, like it's hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard because I know that I need rehab and I need physical therapy. And had it not been for the genocide, maybe I would have been walking fine without the walker now.
UN experts have called what Israel's done to Gaza's healthcare system medicide, and they've accused the IOF of, quote, deliberately attacking and starving healthcare workers, paramedics, and hospitals to wipe out medical care. There are no fully operational hospitals left. Only slightly more than half of the original 36 of them remain partially functional, while the rest are damaged, destroyed, or completely out of service. ES is often left to battle his difficult circumstances without any experts to help him, or even access to materials that could make him feel any ease at all.
Shoes. It's really hard for me to find comfortable shoes. And I own 2 pairs of shoes. One of them is one that I bought before the genocide, like medical shoes that would be good for your feet. I bought that pair back then before the genocide. And then the second pair I actually got from our neighbor who ended up getting killed while covering news. He works as he used to work. He was working as a journalist for Al Jazeera. So I borrowed his shoes at some point before he was gone. He was killed later during the genocide. And I also have his Crocs too. One of my mom's friends donated a walker to me, but we had to have someone bring it from the south to the north, which took like 3 weeks, I think. And when we were bombed, I was only able to retrieve one of my walkers, and I'm kind of on the lookout for a new walker.
ES to many people would be the definition of resistance. But from his perspective, he's just being tortured. He doesn't want to live a life that's defined by resisting Zionists who are genocidal.
We are the definition of resistance from someone else's perspective, but it's not the perspective I want to carry with me all the time.
I understand that. I really do.
You just don't want to live in the mentality of like, I wake up every day in the morning, I'm resisting because my identity, my life is dependent on this other exterior intruding thing that is imposed on us forcefully, and I have to be defined by it. I don't want to be resisting anything. Fuck Israel. But I don't want to be, and also I don't want to be called resilient. I wake up for me, as me, a light being, full of love, full of light, full of art, full of God. Because that's on God. The resistance part is on God. That doesn't define me. It's not my role right now, at least. Because little me, doesn't have any much more resistance. I just want to fucking live and rest. I really want to rest my brain a little bit and rest my fucking heart. That's the most important part for me. I just want to rest and heal my body. But I'm trying to. I'm really trying.
ES is still trying. He and I speak a lot, and right now he's struggling to find meaning in his existence. While his existence alone speaks truth to power, he feels like his future is bleak if he stays in Gaza. He wants help getting out, and if there's an organization that wants to sponsor ES's education or has a way for him to get out, please get in touch. We will continue to use our resources to amplify ES and help him find people who have even more resources than we do.
لو ما في بتزولي على امي لو انت معي امي ما 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 في بتزولي على امي لو استمعت الام يابا حبيبي حبيبي ما 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 في بتزولي على امي لو استمعت الام يابا حبيبي حبيبي حبيبي